Welcome to Big Little Lessons, the podcast where we explore what children can teach us about life, learning, relationships, and ourselves. I'm Jenny, and Kristine, my partner, and I have taught kindergarten for 17 years. And while we don't have all the answers, we do have a lot of experience.
Hi, I'm Kristine. So today, I'm very excited. We're revisiting one of our earliest episodes. It was called The Magic in Mistakes. It was episode 4.
Oh my gosh, was it really?
Yes, I just re-listened to it, and it was really fun. In that original conversation, we explored different kinds of mistakes. So we talked about how mistakes can help children, and we also talked about the difference between how mistakes impact children and the difference between children and adults, and how both children and adults can learn, grow, and become more resilient as a result of the mistakes that we make.
Yeah, because mistakes happen your whole life, right? As we all know. So that was a year ago that we were recording that Magic and Mistakes, and we wanted to return to this topic and ask ourselves, what have we learned about mistakes since recording that episode?
Yeah.
Boy, I think we've learned the most through mistakes, what to do, what not to do, and how to lean into mistakes and not take it too seriously.
That is for sure. So let's think back to that original episode. Well, what I remember most, it's so hilarious because we were episode 4, we were new to this, and my phone was not turned off in that episode, and it rang, and it was like, couldn't have been a more perfect episode for my phone to ring.
The look on your face was hilarious.
I was horrified, but like, who cares? My phone rang, you know?
Rang. It was not that big a deal. Actually, I thought it was quite endearing, but it is one of those, oh, yeah, let's turn off our phones.
So in that episode, we told lots of stories. We had tons of stories about children and the experiences that we've had with children making mistakes.
And I think it's so good to revisit because, like we do as teachers, starting a new school year or starting a new season, you need to remind yourself of the age group you're working with, how things are going to unfold, what to expect the unexpected, because there's always something new, and to revisit the idea that they don't know. Remind yourselves that they don't know, and you're going to learn new stuff too, and to stay open and flexible.
Yeah, I love what you said, expect the unexpected.
Isn't that the truth? Are you ready for your new school year to start?
I'm so excited.
Oh, it's exciting. Kristine, is there anything you understand differently now?
I don't know if it's that I understand differently, but I think, really focusing on the fact that with children, when they make mistakes, it's evidence that they're trying, and how brave little ones can be because they're putting themselves out there, and mistakes are inevitable, but it's proof.
Yes.
It's proof. And that's what I want them to know. Mistakes are proof that you're trying.
Oh, I like that. That means you are trying because, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage to step out of your comfort zone or your non-interest, right?
Right.
I mean, you're not going to be excited about every single aspect of school as a student, but leaning into, this is going to help me grow into a more well-rounded person.
Yeah, and they're not thinking about it as in the same way that we're thinking about it, but I feel like they are very brave, and we're requiring a lot. We're asking a lot of these little people.
And yeah, their brains are full. They are taking in so much and using all their senses. So it's busy. Well, do you still believe that there's magic in mistakes?
100%, because they're teachable moments. There's, even for adults, it's hard when we make mistakes still. There's a lot that goes along with making mistakes. And I've been thinking a lot about it. We talked in that episode about being overloaded in your life and, reacting emotionally. And I feel like I've been thinking about that in particular, just because sometimes it feels like we're reactive and we're impulsive.
Yes.
And that causes us to do things that we regret.
Well, I also think it's getting your mind in the correct mindset, because when you have a mistake and you want it to go a certain way, you can get very defensive.
Yeah.
And so I think having a mindset of I'm here to learn as a teacher, as a parent, as a student, at any age, by the way. I just started doing some things. Like the other day, I was at a pottery wheel and like the clay was falling off the pottery wheel. But
Lots of mistakes.
a lot. But I had the mindset of like, that's okay. And of course, my friend Jean is so terrific and she was so patient with me. And then she's guiding my hands step by step. That helped a lot.
I'm so impressed that you did that.
Yeah, it was so fun. But, same thing with learning Mahjong. I mean, I'm making mistakes. I'm like, whoopsies. But my mindset is I'm going to make mistakes and that's how I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
I think if we can create that environment for those that were around to say, let's all just lean in, that's showing that you're going to grow. Mm-hmm. All right.
So when we do make mistakes, what happens next? Like the repair, it's huge, right?
Oh, yes, it is.
And one thing that we understand more deeply now is recognizing that a mistake is just the beginning. And how do we, I think when I make a mistake personally, I really believe so strongly in repair and going back and fixing it, and how do we model that for little people? And even, there's adults that I know that refuse to say sorry, and it's really hard, and those relationships are really hard. Mm-hmm. I think about Shane when he was 3, and developmentally, I feel like saying sorry for him was he wouldn't say sorry. I actually had a little boy this past year also that wouldn't say sorry, and I do believe that in their minds, what is connected to that is so much shame.
Yes.
They've done something so wrong, but getting to the other side of helping them understand the power of not just saying sorry, but feeling sorry.
Feeling sorry. And I think pride can get in the way as well.
Pride.
And perhaps it could be that their intention wasn't to hurt or destroy or do whatever they did wrong. And so in their mind, they're not sorry because they're like, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to do something wrong. So why would I say sorry? That wasn't my intention. But pride is a big thing.
That's true. So helping children learn how to take responsibility and teaching them that word, like you're taking responsibility for something that you did and it's going to make you feel better.
Yes. I think books in particular, and you know what? I'm going to post some books that I think are so helpful in teaching to take responsibility. Yeah. It really helps students and remind adults about taking responsibility.
Taking responsibility. In our school, we have something called a toolbox. And one of the tools in our toolbox that we teach the children is a tool called the apology and forgiveness tool. So how those two things work together, right? So I think also understanding that if you say sorry to somebody, they may or may not forgive you.
It might take a while. It takes a minute. They're hurting.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes I love when this happens when you're helping two children navigate a conflict and one kid will say to another kid, I'm sorry, whatever they did. And the other child will say, it's okay. I'm like, it's not okay.
No, I've had to tell I think this Charlie needs a little bit of time.
Yeah.
This person has forgiven you, but they need a little space from you today.
Yeah. So also acknowledging the impact of the behavior.
Yes. It's not a quick fix. Sometimes it takes a moment or two. What do children learn when they hear an adult offer a genuine apology?
Yeah, hopefully that's really good modeling and they're learning that apologizing and feeling and meaning you're sorry.
There's no better role model than adults who are really important in a child's life, whether that's the parent, a caretaker, a coach, a teacher, a neighbor. That sincere apology will teach that child so much more than probably anything else. So yes, we all need to lean into, wow, I really blew it. I'm really sorry I was so impatient today, or I'm sorry I'm grumpy today. I didn't mean to, take it out on you.
Right. I can't tell you how many times as my children, still to this day, I say sorry for things that I've done. But in the teenage years, I think also that's a really critical time to acknowledge your own behavior, because it can get messy, when they're teenagers, and saying, no,
Never, not our cherubs.
but this is not just a little person time. This is not something that little people need to learn. It's something that needs to be modeled for them.
And do we ever apologize to our students?
Always.
Gosh, I'm such an imperfect person. I've always making mistakes, and big things and little things, like, I'm sorry I didn't give you a hug today. I think it's important to say, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I've had one student, I'll never forget this, Charlie. She had been raising her hand and I didn't call on her. And I said, okay, we're moving on. And she just lost it. She was just crying and crying and crying. But I was so grateful. I took the time to really listen to her and really apologize for overlooking her. And I was grateful that she told me that she was upset, and it was a teachable moment. Okay. How does apologizing strengthen rather than weaken an adult's authority?
It's teaching that adults can make mistakes.
Yes.
So if an adult that I care about, a charismatic adult in my life, is making a mistake, I can make mistakes too.
Yes. And it actually strengthens you. It makes you human. It's relatable. They build a trust and a confidence. Being vulnerable with kids you're bigger than them. You're guiding them. You are the authority. But showing that side of, I'm a human too, helps them lean into areas that they're working on.
Yeah. I like that, because in our first episode, we talked more about mistakes and not so much about what to do after a mistake. So what goes with sorry?
What goes with sorry?
Yeah.
And what goes with sorry is actions, in my opinion.
Right. Not just the words, right?
Oh my gosh. I've had students say,
I'm sorry.
You're sorry for what? Getting caught?
Or when they have no clue. When they have
Yeah.
no clue what they've done.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. About what? So naming it, communicating what it is that they did, and that helps them to learn.
So after a mistake, instead of saying, did you do what you did? Let's think of some questions that would be helpful.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to ever shame anybody for making a mistake.
No, you want to look at, I always say, it's a learning opportunity. Yeah. This is a learning opportunity. So we came up with a list of questions you can ask yourself or your loved ones after a mistake. Why did you do that? That's such a, why did you do that? But let's ask some other questions.
What have you done?
Yeah, shame on you. No, now we're gonna reword this. So here's some alternate ways. One question could be, what happened?
What happened? Or what were you hoping would happen?
And then what happened instead?
How about, was this something you didn't know yet, something you forgot, or a choice you wish you'd made differently, right? We talk a lot about choices.
I love going back to, if we could do it all, we can't do it again, but if we could, what could have happened differently is such an invitation to rethink and retrain your brain.
Right. And then after it has happened, and then the repair has happened, what did you learn from this?
Yes. What did you learn, and what support would help next time?
Yeah. What do you need, right? What would you do differently?
And then finally, are you ready to try again?
Let's have a do-over.
Do-over. We do do-overs every day in kindergarten, and that's how we should operate in our life too. Lots of do-overs. So we're excited to revisit this original number 4 episode, Magic and Mistakes. The next time a mistake happens, ask yourself, what kind of mistake was this? Does this moment need encouragement, accountability, a new strategy, a repair, or simply another opportunity to practice?
Yes. So we hope that this revisit gives you something new to consider as you listen again to our original episode, Magic and Mistakes.
Follow us on Instagram at Teach Big Little Lessons, or email us at teachbiglittlelessons@gmail.com. We are still learning, still making mistakes, and still discovering that we can always begin again.
Yep. Until next time, remember, big little lessons are everywhere. Hey everyone, I'm Kristine. Welcome to Big Little Lessons. So we're calling this episode Magic in Mistakes. Let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
We have a lot of experience in mistakes, over 50 years combined of teaching.
We're going to talk about mistakes, how we learn from mistakes, and how to lean into them. It's hard to make mistakes and take responsibility for them. But guess what? We make mistakes our whole life. As a longtime teacher, we value mistakes and recognize their importance in learning.
Gosh, that's so true. And when you think about being a kindergarten teacher, a huge part of our job is teaching children how to be students, right? It's their first time in big kids school, and they have so much to learn. So I have a funny story, actually. A few years ago, I thought I was really clever, and children were making mistakes, and I thought, oh, this will be really cute. So I ordered for my classroom these giant erasers. They were like 4 inches big, and on each eraser, it said the words, big mistakes.
Oh, I remember when you got those. They were so beautiful. The pink, that traditional.
Right.
But
So
it was really big.
They were big. And I would say most children loved them and they thought they were funny and they were using them as they were writing and making mistakes. But there was one little boy.
There's always one.
He did not like these giant erasers. So unbeknownst to me, one day I open up the little bin of erasers, and one of the erasers has a black crayon scribbled all over the word big mistake. And I can't remember how we figured out it was this little boy, but
Probably wrote his name on it.
he made a mistake, right?
Yeah, he didn't like making mistakes.
But I also felt like, wow, he really showed me how he felt about making mistakes.
There can be such a stigma around the word mistake.
And we model it and show students how to be open and resilient to their mistakes.
And we do that all year long. And so we make them on purpose. And it's so fun to model making mistakes. And so it's like, oopsie, I made a mistake. And it's a teachable lesson. I had a little student, Charlie. She was such a good little listener. She hung on every word I said. And she watched me all year long make mistakes. And I did it again. And it was probably near the end of the school year. And she kind of tilted her head and she looked at me so earnestly. And she's like, yeah, I mean, really, you make a lot of mistakes. And she was genuinely just concerned about me. That's how I learn, Charlie. That's how I learn. And so it's helping them to recognize and stay open and resilient when they make a mistake because it's inevitable.
By showing them. They are inevitable our entire lives, right? But we need mistakes to grow. And then we started to think about the difference between making mistakes as children versus making mistakes when you're adults. And we thought the main difference are definitely the stakes, right? The expectations and how you look at the mistake. And as you grow with age, this changes.
Mistakes are natural and they are a necessary part of learning and growth. But the kinds of mistakes we make and how they show up can look very different depending on our age, our experience, and environment.
So listeners, let's look at some different kinds of mistakes. We did a little bit of a deep dive and we found out there's many, many categories.
Onion, there's a lot of layers.
There's a lot of layers, lots of different kinds of mistakes. So we're going to go with a few. And the first one is called learning mistakes.
And so the learning mistake definition that we came up with is mistakes made while trying to do something new or unfamiliar.
So thinking about that definition, trying to do something new or unfamiliar. So with children, these are so common in kindergarten. Oh my goodness. All day, every day, all the time. Kids are constantly learning. So, not just academically, socially, behaviorally, spiritually, physiologically, everything. It's like, it's all new.
It's all day long.
All day long.
I know. It makes me think of, I'm sure you would agree, is our writing program.
Oh my gosh.
So with our writing program, it's a lot about leaning in and trying, working on your pencil grip. It's working on forming the letters and numbers correctly. It's coming up with the idea, writing your name, leaving spaces in between words, providing an ending mark and an illustration to go with the sentence. It is a lot of steps. And then when you're done with your story, You have to put it in your green folder and manage
Easier
that
said
and
than
start a
done.
new story. So this goes on where we have a lesson and then they try it out and they're adding to their stories. To say that sometimes the writing folders gets a little cluttered is an understatement.
Exactly.
We ask them to go back and review their work and add and delete and cross out and scribble. To someone who may not be familiar with the kindergarten age writing program, they might say, my gosh, that is a mess. And we call it the magic is in the mess, in such that they're making lots of mistakes because they're learning how to write. And not only is it academic, it's also getting along with your classmates.
Sharing the materials. I need the red crayon. Give me that red crayon.
I've had students where they're just sitting there very quietly. And I said, is there something, what do you need? And they're like, I need a pencil. And I'm like, well, let's look around the room. And oh, I have to extend my arm and pick up the pencils and get along with the other seatmates around them, sharing the red crayon. It's always the red crayon. They
Why
love
is
that.
it always the red crayon?
And so there's a lot of mistakes going on, but as teachers, what we see, the magic, we see like, oh my gosh, they did this story all by themselves. They wrote their name or most of the letters in their name. Maybe they drew a sun and put the letter S. We're like, oh my gosh, they knew that the beginning, the word started with an S. They put a period at the end, maybe or maybe not. That one takes a while. But we're saying, and then when you see the beginning of the kindergarten, middle of the year to the end, truly
it's magic. And actually, we just finished our writing celebration, and the students are reflecting on, wow, I've grown so much as a writer. It's through exactly what Jenny said. It's through all these series of mistakes.
Trying to keep that childlike wonder of look how far I've come, because it is truly amazing and it is magical. So it's magic in the mistakes that we make throughout our whole lives.
It really is. For small children, it's easy to think about and learning mistakes. For adults, I think we make learning mistakes also when we're acquiring new skills, right? We're starting a new job, or we're trying to cook a new recipe,
New hobby.
or a new language, like who is not on Duolingo?
I know, right?
But I think for adults, we could be more self-conscious about that.
Self-conscious. I mean, just preparing today's episode, we kind of are like, we are 100% going to make mistakes. And that is vulnerable. And but how do we get better at it is by leaning in. So we've got our notes in front of us and we're getting tense. This is a great exercise in practicing as adults, leaning into something new.
So thank you for being with us as we make lots of mistakes.
And feeling proud of ourselves. Because someday we're going to look back on our beginning episodes and then we're going to see the progress and growth, just like our children do in writing folders.
Exactly. And how do we associate with those mistakes? Like, how do adults? I would say we feel more shame, possibly, if we mess up, right? We don't feel as resilient and open as children, hopefully, generally
No,
feel.
but we want to turn it around. Instead of saying, I made a mistake, how about I'm learning? I'm practicing by making obvious mistakes, subtle mistakes.
So true. So another kind of mistakes are called careless mistakes.
And the careless mistakes definition is mistakes made due to inattention or lack of focus, not because of lack of knowledge.
So like in children, that would be, in a classroom, that would be like forgetting their homework, although they always say, my mom forgot my homework.
And then
my
that's a
dad
lesson, taking responsibility. It's not your mom or dad's job to do that.
Exactly. Those might be some examples. I have a really funny example of a very, very careless mistake that was made by my younger son when he was about 6 in kindergarten.
Aww.
So he was in my bedroom watching TV, and all of a sudden he comes out and he's crying. He's like, Mom, the TV broke. And so I said, what happened? He said, I was jumping on the bed and I fell and my head went into the TV. And I said, oh no, are you okay? So I went into the bedroom and there was a virtual crack through the TV.
Yikes.
And I was like, it's okay, honey. I don't care about things. I only care about you. Are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. So Put that story to rest. Fast forward about 10 years.
So thankful that he's okay.
Thankful.
And like TVs can be replaced.
And it was a mistake. I said, what did you learn from this mistake? Not to jump on the bed. Okay, great. Let's move on. Fast forward, till he's 16 or 17 or 18. And he one day says to me, Mom, I have a confession to make. I said, what is your confession? He said, remember when I broke the TV? I said, of course, I remember. It cost me a bunch of money to get a new TV.
But I'm okay because you are okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Don't forget that. And then he said, well, I have a confession. It wasn't my head. I was actually swinging a yo-yo. And I was like, well, now I'm actually mad.
How could you have done that 10 years ago?
But that was definitely a careless mistake, right?
Yeah. And we've all made careless mistakes. You think as adults, we send an email with the wrong attachment or reply all when you wanted to just be the direct sender.
I've done that.
Yeah, I think we all have. And it's just so mortifying. Misreading something or forgetting a meeting. And so often when we make a careless mistake as an adult, it's usually because we're stressed or we're multitasking or we're burned out. Do you remember that time when we were sending out a newsletter to our families and we had all these documents and we were just like, we just got to get it out because we were requesting some materials for the parents to bring back the following week.
I do. I think I know.
It was a Friday afternoon and we're like, we're fine, send it out. And then I get a notice from my principal. Oh, we made a mistake. Was that a phone ringing?
Sorry.
Whatever. Let's just go with it. We get a call from our principal and he said, yeah, I had a parent reach out to me and said that she forwarded it to me, your newsletter. And did you look at it before you sent it out? And I could feel the surge of embarrassment coming up. He said, well, you did not put ending marks on your sentences. There were some misspelled words. You weren't clear.
It was riddled with typos.
A lot of typos. And the parent offered to edit our newsletter and resend it out. You can only imagine how mortified we were. And so, we're like, no, we'll redo it. As embarrassing as it was, and it kind of still brings that shame. I thought, well, what can we learn from it? Learn to double check and triple check. Actually, after that, you and I always could you take a quick look before we send it out?
I remember. I do remember that.
Yeah, we had a final draft, but we also had a rough draft, but we accidentally sent the wrong one. So it happens. We lived and we made it through.
So I think with children, thinking back to my son's careless mistake, they're still developing focus, right? It's part of, so he's forgiven for so many reasons, but brain development is a huge one. But I think for adults, when we're managing too many things, it's about poor life balance, work-life balance, or fatigue or stress. So we make careless mistakes when we're not balanced.
Yeah. And it's going to happen. And learning to forgive ourselves when those mistakes happen, because they're going to happen. So let's move on to a third mistake, which is misjudgment mistake. And the definition is mistakes made because of poor decisions or assumptions, despite having enough knowledge. So for children, they may have misjudgment when they're trusting maybe the wrong friend or choosing to skip studying or misreading social cues.
Oh, I have a story.
Ooh, what's that?
I have a story, but I have to preface this story by saying at the beginning of kindergarten, one of the things that we always do when we're teaching the children how to use scissors is we say, these are scissors. They're for cutting. They're for cutting paper. Mm-hmm. They're not for cutting your hair. They're not for cutting your friend's hair, etc. So two of my students, two little girls, at
Charlie 1 and Charlie 2.
Charlie 1 and Charlie 2. It was recess time, so we were all outside, and the Charlies sneak into the bathroom.
Where was everybody else?
Outside at recess.
Okay. Them to go into the restroom.
Yes. They probably said, may we go to the bathroom? And of course I said, yes, you may go to the bathroom. So they snuck into the bathroom and not snuck. They
Not
went
snuck.
into
They
the
went-
bathroom. Well, they snuck scissors
Scissors.
into the bathroom. So there was a misjudgment.
Yes, that's a better word, misjudgment.
So they took scissors in and they literally gave themselves like some serious haircuts.
I remember that. Both girls had this luscious, beautiful, long hair.
And they came out of the bathroom and they said, "Don't we look cute?"
By the way, they did look cute.
And I nearly died. They looked so cute, but we had a big conversation. And when I remember putting one of the Charlies into their car at the end of the day, and sort of very briefly, I think I had to email the parents and say, "This is what happened." One of them.
We have a surprise for you. End of the day.
So that was a big misjudgment that ended in a very good lesson. And what's funny is that the Charlies, now that they're older, they come back to kindergarten to visit and they remember that story.
Oh, yeah. It was a big learning lesson for them.
Big learning lesson.
Maybe they'll go into cosmetology. They'll become hairstylists. My first experience. Well, for adults, misjudgment mistakes can be hiring the wrong person, mismanaging money, or entering toxic relationships. We all have those moments where you're like, what was I thinking? Oh my God. What's happening? I was thinking about your story.
I do. This actually happened more than once. So 2 times this happened. The first time it was actually my husband's parents. They received a phone call saying that it was their grandson and he was in distress and he had been in an accident and can you please send money, right? It was a scam.
Scamming there. Is it AI? They get the grandchild's voice?
I have no idea.
I think they get it from social media or there's a way that they're able to get your actual grandchild's voice, right?
It was terrifying. They had a feeling that it wasn't right and they went to the sheriff's department and the sheriff was like, "No, this is a scam. This is not right." Another time, a similar thing happened. One of my really close friends in New York, her dad received a similar phone call saying that your grandson has been arrested and you need to send this money. You need to put this money in a magazine and go to FedEx and FedEx it to this address in Georgia or something. And he did it. He sent it. And then right after he sent it, he called his lawyer and he said, "I just did this. I don't know if it's right or if it's, please help me." And the lawyer was like, "You've been scammed." So, we can find ourselves in these situations where we're misjudging, not by any fault of our own.
No, it's something you have to be alert and aware of. I think the key difference between misjudgment mistakes is that adults can carry a heavier cost for the misjudgments. Getting scammed out of money can be embarrassing and shameful, while children are more likely to be guided by adults.
That's so true.
With your example of hair cutting.
Let me guide you.
So that leads us to our next mistake, emotional mistake.
So acting out of anger, fear, jealousy, or stress without thinking things through.
Yes. So with children, that acting out can be tantrums, saying hurtful things, or storming off in frustration. I think kids in kindergarten kind of reel it in. It's not until they get really comfortable with us that we see the real children.
Right.
Save that for their parents.
I think so. I had a little Charlie at the beginning of this year. We have a visiting day before school starts, and we invite the children to come in and look around the room and ask questions and take pictures. This little Charlie was not having it. He would not come in the room. He stood at the door screaming, "I hate this school.
Oh, ouch. Oh,
I'm not going to this school."
And were there other kids and parents there?
There were, and his poor mother, I think it was just his mom who brought him. I could see her just sort of, wilting, feeling so embarrassed and upset. So I said, "It's okay. Why don't you just take Charlie home and let's do a redo?" So I reached out to her and I said, "Why don't you come in on Monday before school starts?"
That was good teaching.
It was Labor Day, but it was necessary and it was worth
Yeah.
it. And it was so important for this little boy to know that this was a safe place for him to come to.
Yeah.
And I also wanted his parents to know that there's no shame in this. This is part of development and everybody's different. So that was a really good example of an emotional mistake. It's an outburst, almost beyond your control when you're little.
Oh, yeah. They don't have that filter and that experience.
Right.
So sometimes those feelings kind of well up and they're just free for all.
Totally.
And we can also have emotion. Well, of course we have emotions as adults, and we make emotional mistakes as well. Yeah. What are the emotional mistakes from adults?
Well, I think, like you said, what's our excuse? Because we're supposed to be able to control ourselves.
Right.
But we can snap. I mean, we can snap at coworkers. Yep. I mean, who hasn't sent a text that they regret sending, right? Or maybe making an impulsive decision in a relationship, right?
It kind of reminds me, I don't even know if I want to tell this story. It doesn't make me look good, but it does drive home the point, which is snapping. And I had a moment. I was probably a little bit hungry too.
Hangry?
I was hangry. I had a lovely associate and she was doing her best. And I was also assigned to be her mentor. She was finishing up a program at school and she needed me to look over some things. And I just was like, I don't have time right now. And she had suggested kindly, well, maybe I need to find another mentor. And that did not go over well with me. I got defensive and I got hangrier, I'll say. And I just said, you know what? There is no one on this campus that has the time that you are requiring. And it was stung.
Oof, ouch.
I know. It's not,
ouch.
I'm glad that's not on film because it was like, that's not who I am. But I did. I snapped. I was not kind.
Did you say sorry?
Well, I felt so justified. I really felt justified at the time. And I might have said sorry kind of just to smooth it over because I had to work in this room with her the rest of the day. So I might have said, I'm really sorry. But did I mean it? Not really at the moment. Here's the golden nugget for me. I didn't forget about it. And it was a number of years later. She was no longer my associate and we were friendly, but it was something that in my heart, I hadn't really apologized. I had listened to a fabulous author, podcaster, Dr. Henry Cloud, and he talked about, think about somebody who maybe you haven't really said sorry and truly meant it. And the first person was this associate. Wow. So it'd probably been 5 or 6 years, but I went up to her and I said, hey, I need to tell you, remember that day? And she knew right away. I said, remember that day and you'd suggested maybe a new mentor? And I said, I am so truly sorry that I was so short with you. That wasn't correct of me. That was so unkind of me. And I hope you can forgive me. And we both got teary-eyed because it was a true apology. And so I'm glad I did that. I'm just sorry. When you do wrong, it's better to just own it and get it over with because you'll heal your heart, really, truly.
Yeah, I'm thinking about people that haven't learned that lesson. Even as adults, there's some people that just sorry
from their mistakes. And that's probably another really good episode to talk about is truly meaning you're sorry and what does that look like?
And so in children with emotional mistakes, they're still learning to be regulated emotionally, right? But adults, we are meant to have better control. But when we get emotional, it can override logic.
Yes. But I learned from it. And I'm grateful for it because when I'm hangry again, I might need to remove myself and get something to eat or do whatever it needs before I react. So we're kind of looking at mistakes and the differences between children and adults. So the biggest difference isn't just the type of mistake, but how we respond to them.
Right. So children, I would say, need guidance. They need patience. They need safety, a safe environment to learn from their mistakes.
In our society, we know kids are going to make mistakes. They're little kids. But for adults, what can we take away from that? How can we respond? We benefit when we take a deep dive on ourselves, self-awareness, reflection, and of course, humility.
Yeah, so it's also soft.
Yes.
It's also soft.
But sometimes we can really beat ourselves
We're
up.
so hard on ourselves. Yeah. It's also soft. When we can grow from mistakes because they're literally a part of life.
Yeah.
So when they're handled well, they're not failures.
No, we can grow with them. And I want to destigmatize the word mistakes and instead just say that is how they're not failures, they're feedback.
They're feedback. I like that. So listeners, As we wrap it up, before we wrap it up, I have to say my biggest mistake and takeaway from this podcast is turn off your phone. I am so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh. That's just part of life.
Do not disturb next time.
Now we know.
So for you all, here's your call to action.
Okay, so number 1, your call to action is tap into your inner child as you make mistakes, just like we're going to do right now. And also offer that grace and forgiveness to those around you who also make mistakes. We're all mistake people.
Right. And offering grace to others is so critical. Number 2, we say take note when you make careless mistakes and evaluate what you can do to create more balance, knowing that there's no such thing as a perfectly balanced life, but just be mindful of it when it happens.
It's never going to be perfectly done. There's no such thing as perfection. But if you're noticing you're forgetful and snapping at everybody, it's time to reevaluate and put a little more balance and self-care. Number 3, your call to action is to be on alert. Be aware of the people around you and be aware of your surroundings so that you don't make a misjudgment mistake.
Yeah,
don't get
scammed. Don't get scammed. And then finally, take a beat. Like when you're having big feelings, take a deep breath, take a beat. Remember, it's never too late to apologize, but try not to do what Jenny did and wait 5 years. Just kidding.
No, it's true. Oh, what a story. Okay, everybody, remember, mistakes are a natural part of life. It's how we grow and learn from them that matter. We are a classroom, we are a community, and we're all in this together.
And we'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of Big Little Lessons. And don't forget to subscribe.